Autumn, we know, is life en route to death. The trees flaunting their colors at the sky, and other times will follow where the leaves have fallen, and so shall we. Yet other lives will come. So may we know, accept, embrace this mystery of life we hold for a while. And let us not mourn that it outgrows each separate self, but still rejoice that we may have our day. Lift high our colors to the sky and give in our time fresh glory to the earth. These words reflecting on autumn by Robert Weston. And indeed, that is what we are doing today as well, reflecting on autumn. The outside world has agreed with us today, as it is a crisp, beautiful, classic fall morning that we find ourselves gathering. And we are so glad that you have gathered with us this Sunday morning here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon, where we are concerned with love. We are less concerned with who you love. Who you love is the calling of your own heart into the world, and we trust that is for you to know. And we care less about what you love, the particulars, because we know that there is so much in this world available for our love, for what we love. And we're not that concerned with when you love, though we do hope it is more often than it is less. And we're not concerned with where you love, because we know that in this world of ours, love is needed all over. So anywhere that you put your love is well placed. And we're not even concerned with how it is you love, because we know that for each and every person will be an individual and unique expression of that love that comes through you, through us together. So we just want to know that you are loving, and we gather to here to explore the ways that we might love more together. Something I loved this morning was that prelude. Thank you so much, Paula. We are thrilled to have Paula back playing with us, and that opening piece that she played was Starlight. It's one of her own compositions. In fact, all the pieces that Paula will be playing today are her own compositions. So Paula, fantastic to have you back with us. Absolutely love hearing you play the piano. It is gorgeous and beautiful. And a good way to begin this morning. Welcome. We are so glad that you are here. Let us begin by singing or listening or however it is you choose to engage our opening hymn. Sue Wilhelm is with us this morning and is singing our hymns, and this one is one of my absolute favorites. It's number 163 in our gray hymnal, For the Earth Forever Turning.
For the mountains As Scott lights our chalice, these words are from an Irish blessing. May the blessing of light be upon you, light without and within. May the blessed sunlight shine upon you and warm your heart till it glows like a great fire, so that strangers may come and warm themselves, and also a friend. May the light shine out of the eyes of you, like a candle set in the windows of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in out of the storm.
Good morning. I'm Chayla Sloper, your congregational life facilitator, and I have this morning's announcements. First, a very warm welcome to all who are visiting us, maybe for the first or second time, and sometimes we have folks visiting from other countries as well as out of state. If you are here and you have not yet signed up for our weekly communication, which we call the ACE, the All Congregation email, you can do that with our virtual visitor form. You could also just let us know that you're here with us today, but that's the way that you'll be able to stay on top of all the things that are happening in the congregation. So I do want to highlight just a few things. Firstly, this is the first Sunday in October, and the worship theme for this month is cultivating relationship. And we can study that in the Soul Matters packets. If you're interested in signing up for Soul Matters, you can email me or email soulmatters@uufco.org. That's just a way of filling your life, your thoughts, engaging exercises around this theme of cultivating relationship. I want to highlight just a couple things coming up and then talking about opportunities for being together in worship. So firstly, tomorrow night is Carolyn Tate's lecture about Maya art. If you're interested in attending that, please email her. So that'll just be tomorrow night. But our social justice group, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group, invites you to participate in their 21-day challenge. Tomorrow will be the date of the first reading, and we have a link that we're going to put in the chat right now if you'd like to sign up for this. And then the first meeting together will be the following Monday night. So the readings will come out, give us some time to explore. We're going to be looking particularly at our Indigenous neighbors, not only at Warm Springs, but in Oregon, and issues relating to Native American realities on our continent today. Also, the XYZ group, if you are in Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, they'll be meeting on the second Tuesday. So that'll be a week from this Tuesday. So check out the ACE for information on that. Okay, opportunities to get together in person. Beginning on Wednesday, October 13th at 5:30 p.m., we're going to be meeting on the patio outside here at the building. Bring a patio chair if you have one. We can use some of the chairs from in the building. We may need to bundle up. We don't know what the forecast will be, but this will be a time for some reflection. There will be a Zoom connection to it if you aren't able to come to the patio, but that'll be at 5:30. More informal time, sharing our hearts together and even singing. So we'll be wearing masks outside. And then on October 24th, this is our big target. We're so hopeful that we'll be able to meet in person. So that'll be on Sunday, October 24th. We'll have a 9 o'clock service in person, an 11 o'clock service in person, and the Zoom connection at the 11 o'clock service. So guess what? We're going to need some Sunday volunteers. So if you are interested in ushering or greeting, please email me. Just send an email to chayla@uufco.org. We're going to have some different things to consider because of COVID, and we'll have a training before the 24th. And some of you who said that you might have been interested to be an usher or greeter when we asked you in August, that may have changed. So please email me, and then we'll be able to just build our spirit together and really look forward to making this a safe and wonderful time in person together. I think that is it for the day. So guess what? Bright autumn blessings to you. I hope you get outside today.
Oh my goodness, October 24th. That is incredibly exciting and heartening, and we have been through quite an experience since we gathered here on a Sunday morning together in person. So our fingers are crossed indeed. We know that we tried in September and it did not feel like the right time, and we do feel like this does feel the right time. We feel like our space is safe with the precautions we've taken, and so we are really looking forward to that day. And it's COVID time, so we never know until that morning. But we are incredibly hopeful to be together in person and to be even thinking about that. What a thrill. Well, our time for all ages today is, it's a book. It's called Little Tree by Lauren Long. We're just going to tell the story, but the pictures in this book are just wonderful and delightful. So we decided to show you the book instead of telling the story. So this is Little Tree by Lauren Long.
Hi, everybody. Today's flip along is Little Tree by Lauren Long. Once there was a little tree filled with little leaves. Who was surrounded by other little trees who had little leaves of their own. In the heat of long summer days, Little Tree's leaves kept him cool. The squirrels would climb up on his branches to play. The mourning dove landed in him and sang her fluty song. The little tree was sure to grow up big and strong. Autumn arrived, and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches and ruffled his leaves. The air grew cold, and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, becoming yellow, red, and orange. Then, one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves. But not Little Tree. He just hugged his leaves tight.
"Hello, Little Tree,"
said a squirrel.
"You're supposed to drop your leaves now."
But Little Tree was unsure. What would he do without his leaves? Winter came. "What are you doing with leaves still on you?" asked the doe. Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. Springtime arrived, and the little forest burst into life again. The other trees grew bright new leaves. The squirrels played in their branches. Little Tree could hear the morning dove singing her fluty song. The seasons continued to come and go.
Little Tree,
Quacked a duckling.
your leaves are brown. Are you feeling sick?
A fox said, "Little Tree, it's autumn. It's time for you to drop your leaves. You can do it. Ready. 1, 2. But Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. All around, the forest grew and grew. One summer, Little Tree could no longer feel the sunlight. The squirrels played high above on the broad, tall trees. And the morning dove sang so far away that he could hardly hear her fluty song. Autumn came again. Leaves began to blanket the ground. Little Tree looked up at the other trees, at their branches reaching high into the sky. He remembered when the trees had all been his size. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground, for the first time, Little Tree felt the harsh cold of winter. But in time, something happened. Once there was a little tree. Thanks for reading along with us. Come back next week for another story.
It can be hard to let go sometimes, especially if it's what we know, like Little Tree's leaves. We hold on to things in our lives that maybe aren't serving us or maybe aren't getting us to where we need to be in our growth process. And sometimes, like Little Tree, it takes courage. It takes risk. It takes letting go so that we might become who it is that we are meant to be. Will you join us as Chela leads us in our Children's Covenant?
Here we go. In this place, I am kind. In this place, I am loving. In this place, I am a friend to all animals and people. In this place, I am loved.
We invite you now to grab an imaginary rake. And all around you are leaves representing your joys and your sorrows in life. And take that rake and draw those joys and sorrows closer to you. Hold them here as we hold them together. In this community, we create a space for these joys and sorrows to be shared. We pull them close to ourselves, and we share them into this community. We know that a joy shared is a joy multiplied, and a sorrow shared is a sorrow where the weight is lessened. We open our chat now so that you might share your joys and sorrows. as Paula plays her own composition, Cloud Chaser. And after our joys and sorrows, we'll watch a meditative video. And I'll invite you just to take some deep breaths as Anne Borstad takes us on the journey of her poem and visual content that she calls Grace. And I invite you to just encounter this video, these words, and slow down. Allow yourself permission to slow down on this Sunday morning.
I'm grateful for the little weeds that bring me to my hands and knees, close enough to kiss the ground. This is how I pray. Sun warm on my neck as a lover's palm, back aching as I bend low, wind's breath in my hair, the exhale of the world. There's no place I'd rather be than here at Earth's altar. Here is a shiny ant carrying a pebble, a spider testing the air, tiny white flowers, a froth of happiness, springing freely from the gravel path. We call their graceful faces weeds. I'm grateful for this labor that calls me to bend my own face down so low, to watch this grace unfold, to humble myself not to some god, not something outside, but to the godness, goodness that hums along inside and between each part of this whole, knitting me too into this enormous pulsing cloth that is the universe playing dress up, playing make-believe. Falling in love with plants pulled me through a mental health crisis, the birth of my child, the death of a parent, the breakdown of my marriage, and now this global pandemic. It's shown me how to bear the unbearable, how to hold the unknowable, how to let go, how even the most devastating endings may carry in them the seeds of a whole new joy. The weeds go to the compost pile serene. There are no mistakes. Every moldering leaf and crumpled petal is precious, fuel for the great, dark, steaming mother, forgiveness from which every new thing is born. Endings and beginnings so nested in one another that they blur into one thing, the only thing, a great green tunnel of now, becoming just this.
The reading today is called Spring People and Autumn People by Patrick O'Neill. It is in the simplest of terms, the world is divided into two groups of people, spring people and autumn people. Eliot was obviously one of those spring people. He said April is the cruelest month. But on this question, I'll side with Keats, who championed the season of mellow fruitfulness. I am an inveterate lover of autumn. Spring has its moments, to be sure. Spring people will tell you that green is the color of life. They will argue that sun's return is the ultimate symbol of hope. They sing of rebirth and renewal, of seedlings and stirrings. They will tell you the rain has a purpose, that winter is mortal after all. Spring people need assurance, for they are champions of youth, the clingers to optimism who wear naivete like a badge, or, more accurately, like a shield against experience. Spring people bounce when they walk and whistle while they work. Spring people think picnics are meant to be athletic events. They prefer dawn to sunset. They traipse through life armed with a bottle of Windex. Spring people require commotion. They fill elevators with music, and they jog in pairs. Silence and solitude threaten spring people. Autumn people move to a different pulse. Their rhythms are attuned to a slower beat. As the frantic pace of summer slows, the world comes more into line with their style. Autumn people prize harvest over planting, wisdom over hope, apples over oranges. They recognize the monotony of green. They are grateful for the leaves, not only their color and their pleasant crunch underfoot, but also for the shade they gave during the summer's heat. Autumn people are slow to rake and slow to burn. For autumn people, memories are more important than expectations. Thanksgiving has more meaning than Easter, for them. They welcome the variety of colors, the excuse for a fireplace. Autumn people have come to terms with mortality. They appreciate filtered light. They know that stars are suns too. They know that winter trees are not dead. They are, quote, bare ruined choir where the late sweet birds sang. The songs of autumn people are not all love songs. Their poems reflect more than just sweetness and light. Autumn people need alone time, time to think, time to ponder, Time to take their bearings in a world where the seasons are ever changing, where the colors are varied and the paths are covered over. Perhaps the world needs both, a time for every season and all that. I only ask that you spring people be patient with us autumn people this time of year. Your season will come, I promise you. That's how it works.
Winds are changing, colors fading, someone's buried, someone's born. Smells familiar, touches cozy, it's the earth that I love. Life is so predictable that we lose touch with Mother, and in turn she will surprise us just to keep us listening. Storms are gaining, storm is raging, tide turns in, tide turns out. Song of seagulls, beaming sunshine, it's the earth that I love. Life is so predictable that we lose touch with Mother, and in turn she will surprise us just to keep us listening.
"Why are you wearing that?" an office mate of mine said a couple weeks ago as I unknowingly walked into our office wearing a symbol. It was a symbol. I was wearing a flannel shirt. And I walked in, and she said, "Why are you wearing that? It's still summer. It's not fall yet." I did not realize that my premature wearing of a flannel shirt was a clarion call for this person, that autumn had arrived, and they were not ready for autumn yet. And so I finished off the day, and I tucked that flannel shirt away until truly it was time to wear it. Time for autumn, time for the change. I jumped the gun, perhaps. Maybe I was just excited because I also love autumn, this time of year, this fall. I find that I have a certain relationship with this time of year. Something happens each autumn when it arrives. I feel something, and I can't describe it any other way than to say it's what autumn feels like. That air gets crisp in a way that you haven't felt since last autumn. We know it's just going to get colder, but it's coming off of these summer months. And the leaves begin to change. There's that first moment when you notice. Maybe it's a leaf, maybe it's a whole tree that you hadn't noticed yet. But the colors, those fall colors begin to come. And cycles shift. The school year begins. The fellowship comes back after a summer break, and our church year begins. I always try and take note when I see the first autumn leaf falling in the sky. And I saw it last week. I was driving to work on Mount Washington, and there it was, right in the middle of the road. The wind must have swept it in my direction, but there it was, my first witnessing of an autumn leaf falling. All of this happens at this time of year, but perhaps more than anything, all these things external to me, one of the things I'm aware of is what happens internally during this changing of the season. Internal. My internal landscape begins to pull in preparation for those winter months. Autumn is a slowing down season. Not quite yet winter, where we're hibernating and truly with ourselves in stillness and alone. But that transition, the slowing down to get there, it's a time where we pile wood for those winter fires. It's a time where we stop working in the garden. We begin to till the internal spiritual world a little more. It's a time where perhaps those last summer tomatoes are being enjoyed, a sure sign of summer coming to an end as well. Autumn brings with it the feeling of aging, of time moving forward, of coming death. Autumn does, on the whole, seem a much more serious season than the carefree splashing around that we find in the summer months. A friend said to me yesterday that more than anything, she considers fall a time of preparation. We prepare ourselves before the harsh winter. We prepare our homes, we prepare our hearts and our minds for the cold and the dark to come. Maybe you are an autumn person. Maybe you really appreciate this turn, this time of year. Or maybe you're more of a spring person, as Patrick O'Neill shared in our morning's reading that Judy Hurlbert read for us. In reality, I don't know that you have to pick one or the other to be an autumn person or a spring person, because in truth, once spring comes, I'll be all aflutter with the blossoming of the flowers and the different kinds of colors that spring forth at that time of year. Don't tell autumn, but I have a relationship with spring as well. But right now, in the midst of this cooling time of year. If I had to pick, I'd have to say that autumn resonates with me just a little bit more than the springtime. And I wonder, Jonathan, if you open the chat, those autumn folks, and even if it's not you're an autumn person, I wonder if you might just put a word in our chat of what it is that autumn evokes for you. What is it that this time of year brings forth, this turning of the seasons? Feel free to just type that in the chat below. Julie writes, a quiet introspection and a coming of winter light, writes Crystal. Beautiful change and wildfire season ending, which is relief and gratitude and quiet clarity. Coffee by the fire. That sounds cozy. Quiet spaciousness in wombing. And wombing. Wow. Autumn, a time of slowing down, reflection, and turning inward. No more flies in the kitchen. My birthday and fall. Cuddling under blankets and moon on snow, which equals beauty and calm. Road trips with fall colors. All of these. I'm calmer just for having read them. Except for persimmons. That's an exciting one. Jenny's favorite. All of these, even just reading them, made me feel a little calmer as I get ready for what is to come. Regardless of which way your heart may lean towards spring or towards autumn, the sun is definitely getting lower in the sky. It's darker in the morning. My youngest gets on the bus at 7 o'clock, so we are up before the sunrise each day. The spirit of autumn indeed has descended upon us. And so this morning, I'm encouraging us to attune ourselves to this season, to pay attention to this spirit of autumn that has come upon us. There is the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And now that we find ourselves in autumn, perhaps when in autumn, we should do as the earth does. We would do well to slow down, to begin to release and to let go, to turn inward, to take this as a time to reconnect with the essentials of our life, those places that we are connected to, our sources. A time where we might listen more and talk a little less. It's a time to slow down and see where it is that we are rooted into this earth, into our lives. Where are our roots when we turn our attention to them? It's a time to take stock and to remember where it is that our roots sink in and we find our meaning, where we draw our life energy from. This autumnal state of mind is about discernment, about allowing, about letting. There is in autumn this sense, as I said, of aging, of time moving, of death coming, of leaves falling. During this time of year, my thoughts do turn and have a backdrop of lifespan being lived, of mortality, of all around us. We see the earth giving itself over to death for life. Life lived in leaves falling all around us, gently to the ground. The trees that let go of these leaves that have served them so well since last spring. And so as I look around me at this time of year, to the trees. I'd like to take a lesson from them, take my lead from these leaves. If only I could let go of things that have been in my life and perhaps have served me and now need to be done. If I could let them go as well as the leaves, as brilliantly as they do, and let them go gently, knowing that they have served their purpose. One wonders, wrote Thoreau, if the time will ever come when humans, with their touted faith in immortality, will lie down as gracefully and as ripe as the leaves. Or as the poet Lucille Clifton offered, the leaves believe such letting go is love, and such love is faith, and such faith is grace. Such grace is God. I agree with the leaves. How pleasant it would be to do this so gently, to lie down at last at the end of our time, to die knowing that we have done what was needed, that we have been who we were, and that we would then feed the tree which gave us birth, knowing that we have lived a life that left the world a little better for those who would follow. This is a uniquely autumn perspective. And yet, instead of letting go of our leaves, oftentimes we hold on. We hold on much like Little Tree did in our Time for All Ages story. We hold on to what we know. We hold on to what is comfortable. We hold on to what may have served us, but does not serve us any longer. The trees and the leaves teach us how to let go, how to let things that need to die, die. And we all have things in our lives. All of us are holding on to things that might need to be released, that might need to die. And the trees teach us how to release so that we might prepare ourselves for what is next in our lives. What is next? Just like Little Tree experienced, we can't go forward and grow until it is we let go of what is holding us. This next round of growing is what we prepare ourselves. The tree itself, even though it lets go of its leaves, the tree remains very much alive. Its life now, though, is inside and underground. It's happening within the trunk and rooted into the earth. It pulls back from all the frantic stretching out into the world that the leaves do. And it drops the franticness. And it pulls inward and allows what is essential to flow again. And when the time is right, after rest, after rejuvenation, and after recovery, the tree will sprout its leaves again, and it will grow. And so what would it mean for you to allow yourself to pull back, to release what needs to go, and return to your roots? For me, this is somewhat a daunting process, like Little Tree experienced. It's not necessarily as easy. For me, it means facing my own fears and taking true stock in my life. It means looking at my relationship with the season. It means looking around at all the beauty of the world that surrounds me. And it reminds me to remember that I'm a part of something so much grander and so much larger than myself. That I am a part of this, only a part, but I am a part of it, a fleeting part, and that I too someday will be no more. And so, as Robert Weston invited us in our opening reading, to then look around and take glory in this day, have gratitude for this day and this life. It means for me trying to be mindful and not looking too far ahead, but to being here and now and present, to carve out as best I can space for reflection, space for prayer, space for play, space for being present. It means giving myself permission for restoration, for time that is truly restorative rather than just moving on to the next thing. This is what my relationship with autumn reminds me each year. Poets seem to know this. Perhaps it's all the time they spend staring off into space, but they're good at it, it would seem. Here's a poem by New Englander and Unitarian Universalist May Sarton. She speaks the truths of autumn. I am not available at the moment, except to myself. Downstairs, the plumber is emptying the big tank, waterlogged. The pump pumped on and might have worn out. So many lives pour into this house. Sometimes I get too full. The pump wears out. So now I am emptying the tank. It's not an illness that keeps me from my writing. I am simply staying alive, as one does, at times by taking it in, and at times by shutting it out. There are seasons in our lives. There are seasons of taking it in, and there are times where we are well served by shutting it out. We all have obligation. We all have responsibility. And this can make slowing down and putting ourselves in harmony with the rhythms of the earth and the seasons difficult. But we are always well served when we do this. That song that Eric sang for us earlier, he wrote that song. It's called It's the Earth That I Love. And he's saying that life can become predictable. And when it does, we lose touch. When it becomes predictable, we lose touch with Mother, with nature. But Mother will surprise us just to keep us listening. And that's us paying attention. It's going on a walk. It's writing in our journals. It's listening to music. It's slowing down, creating some time in the morning or on the lunch hour or in the evening to take that brief walk, to look across the landscape at the trees as they teach us their lessons. A walk where we slow ourselves down and we don't just go over the lists in our head, but we're present in nature. And we let Mother surprise us, as Mother can do over and over and over again if we just pay attention. Mother Nature, always offering herself to our awe and our amazement. This time of year offers us an invitation, an open invitation to be present to the world around us, to be present to ourselves. Edna St. Vincent Millay writes in her poem, God's World, O world, I cannot hold thee close enough. Thy winds, thy wide gray skies, thy mists that roll and rise, thy woods this autumn day that ache and sag and all but cry with color, to lift the lean of that black bluff. World, world, I cannot get thee close enough. Long have I known the glory of it all, but never knew I this. Here such passion is as stretcheth me apart. Lord, I do not fear thou'dst made the world too beautiful this year. My soul is all but out of me. Let fall no burning leaf, let no bird call. The world is a burst in splendor and glory. There are powers in this world that we would do well to not resist, to take that invitation. The sheer beauty of autumn, the lessons of the trees, the seasons turn. What is instinctual in this time of year is right. May we see autumn. May we let this invitation move in our hearts and move our very lives. And the next time you see a leaf fall, just think to yourself, How beautiful, how graceful, how gentle to let go of that which no longer serves us, but that which is moving us to our growth. May it be so this day and every day. If you've lit a chalice in your own space this morning, we invite you to extinguish that at this time as we extinguish our fellowship chalice, and we say together the covenant of this fellowship. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We invite you to stay after our postlude for our virtual coffee hour. These are breakout rooms of about 5 or 6 people each, and we just explore a question, and it's just a chance to get to know one another a little better and have a conversation after the church service. And our question today is nothing too deeply profound, but it's honoring the fact that each one of us does have our own relationship to this time of year, to this time of autumn and fall. So the question is just, what is your favorite thing about autumn, or how does this season resonate with you? During the postlude that Paula will play, we'll put a slide up that gives you the chance to contribute an offering to the work of this church. You can do that by texting to give, or you can do that through our website. But we are always grateful, ever so grateful, for the generous contributions of this community that make the work of this fellowship possible and make it vibrant and make it happen both for us in this community, but also in our wider Central Oregon world. Our closing words today come from the poet Tagore. It's the peace of autumn. Today, the peace of autumn pervades the world. In the radiant noon, silent and motionless, the wide stillness rests like a tired bird. In the stillness, I hear in every blade of grass, in every speck of dust, in every part of my own body, in the visible and invisible worlds, in the planets, the sun, and the stars, the joyous dance of atoms through endless time. We are those atoms dancing through endless time. Go into this day, curious about what your dance will be. Listen to the world around you. Accept this beautiful invitation from this time of year. It beckons to you. Answer it. You will not be disappointed. Mother Nature is calling to us, and we will be surprised if we listen. Go in peace. Amen.
So if you're planning to stay for our conversation, our virtual coffee